The story starts in the early 1950s, when governments were racing to build fallout shelters fast enough to keep up with public panic. Most people today focus on the concrete thickness, the bunker blueprints, or the ventilation systems, but there was a piece of the puzzle that rarely makes it into documentaries. In fact, it's a detail many engineers either never learned or, well, purposely left out of open reports. It was a simple powder, cheap, stable, and readily available, that boosted radiation shielding far beyond what ordinary concrete could do. It wasn't glamorous, and it definitely wasn't exotic, yet it quietly became the secret ingredient in some of the best shielded Cold War bunkers on Earth. This wasn't classified because it was dangerous. It was classified because it worked too well. And that's exactly why understanding it gives modern survivalists and history enthusiasts a window into a forgotten engineering advantage. Why Cold War engineers turned to this unlikely material. When nuclear testing data started rolling in from Nevada and Semipalatinsk, one thing became clear. Neutrons were far more destructive than early public pamphlets suggested. Concrete walls could stop gamma radiation reasonably well, but neutrons passed right through many early shelter designs like they were nothing more than thick garden walls. Engineers needed something that wasn't steel, wasn't lead, wasn't expensive, and could bind with concrete without weakening it. That's where boron came in, specifically boric acid and borax. Boron isn't rare, but its neutron absorption is exceptional. During the Cold War, certain United States and Eastern Bloc bunker projects began mixing boron compounds directly into the concrete, bumping its protective value dramatically. The practice never became widely known, not because it was dangerous, but because it represented a strategic edge. If a nation's bunkers could withstand neutron bombardment better than another's, it meant leadership shelters, communication hubs, and command posts had a higher chance of staying functional. So, while public brochures encouraged civilians to dig crude backyard shelters, military engineers were quietly strengthening walls with an additive no one talked about outside closed circles. How the additive was actually used in field construction. In its most common form, boron was mixed into the aggregate at controlled ratios, usually between small to moderate percentages by mass, depending on the design. In practice, the process was simple. Workers preparing shelter, concrete, added the boron powder into the slurry at specific stages to ensure even distribution. The mixture cured normally, didn't weaken, and didn't visually appear different unless tested chemically. That made it a perfect additive, effective, subtle, and impossible for an untrained eye to detect once the structure was finished. In some command bunkers, engineers even used layered wall systems where outer concrete was ordinary, inner concrete was boron-laden, and the cavity between the layers held crushed stone or sand for additional energy absorption. This approach created a neutron shield far beyond what civilian shelter manuals promised, what modern survivalists can learn from this forgotten solution. The value of boron-enhanced barriers didn't vanish with the Cold War. Today, the idea translates extremely well into off-grid shelter design, safe room improvements, and even farm or homestead infrastructure where radiation protection might be considered. While few people need full nuclear shielding, the principles have wider uses. For example, boron-rich coatings and compounds are excellent fire retardants. They also strengthen wood against pests and fungal decay. A modern homesteader could mix borax into clay plaster to increase both durability and insect resistance. Similarly, if someone is building an earthbag shelter, Adding a boron-based compound to the outer render increases both longevity and, to a degree, heat resistance. In short, the same material Cold War engineers valued for neutron absorption has everyday resilience benefits that most people overlook. For those interested in historical reconstruction or experimental archaeology, you can recreate a simplified version of the Cold War mixture. Start with a standard lime sand plaster or natural clay mixture. Add a modest amount of borax, mix thoroughly, and apply in thin layers. As it dries, it becomes harder, more moisture-resistant, and less attractive to insects. It won't duplicate bunker-grade concrete, but it demonstrates how the additive interacts with construction materials in real time. It's a practical way to connect with the engineering decisions of the era while producing a useful, functional coating for storage sheds or root cellars. Why the technique was eventually abandoned in official use. As reactor shielding research progressed into the late 1960s, more advanced materials came into play. High-density concretes, polymer boron compounds, resin panels, and laminated shielding slabs. These offered even better protection but required industrial manufacturing. Boron-added concrete was gradually replaced not because it failed, but because other materials simply outperformed it in specialized military settings. Once the emphasis shifted to deeper underground complexes and hardened command centers, the original additive slipped into obscurity. After that, only niche engineers remembered it. Yet, for ordinary materials, the old approach remains surprisingly practical. It doesn't require exotic resins or precision mixing. It doesn't involve controlled facilities. It's a simple, chemistry-based upgrade that provides noticeable benefits. Why this forgotten additive still matters today. There's value in tracing how past engineers solve problems with simple, field-ready materials. It reminds us that innovation isn't always about new inventions. Sometimes the smartest solutions are hidden in the overlooked, the unglamorous, or the intentionally quiet. Boron-strengthened concrete is a perfect example. A technique that helped shape Cold War shelter survivability but never got the public spotlight it deserved. For those of us who study historical engineering, survival strategies, or the evolution of protective structures, this forgotten additive is a reminder that the best knowledge often doesn't announce itself. If you want more deep-dive historical breakdowns like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel, share the video with fellow enthusiasts, and help keep these forgotten lessons alive for future researchers.